Hello everyone, Prosperity here. With Legion just a few short weeks away, I've decided to make a few videos to cover all the changes that have been made to your characters. With this guide series, we're stripping down the classes and specializations to help you better understand what's going on. Welcome to the intermediate guide to the Holy Paladin in Legion. Before we get started, be sure to watch the beginner guide to Holy if you haven't already. That video lays the groundwork for what we're going over in the series, so I'll leave a link to it on screen and in the description for you. Now that we're all on the same page, let's dig in. This video will be covering the passive abilities and cooldowns, divided into their respective parts. Your passive abilities are Infusion of Light, your Mastery, Lightbringer, and Righteousness. Your cooldowns are Aura Mastery, Avenging Wrath, Blessing of Freedom, Blessing of Sacrifice, Divine Protection, and your 3 Forbearance abilities, Blessing of Protection, Divine Shield, and Lay on Hands. Let's go ahead and get the passives out of the way. As you can see on screen, there are only 3 of them, and they all enhance your healing in some way or another. Infusion of Light causes your Holy Shot crits to either reduce the cast time of your next Holy Light by 1.5 seconds, or increase the healing of your next Flash of Light by 50%. This effect needs to be used within 14 seconds of gaining the effect to make proper use of it. Typically, the better use here is to use Holy Light, unless you're absolutely sure you won't overheal with a Flash of Light. Your Mastery, Lightbringer, increases your healing done to a target the closer you are to them by a baseline 12%, increasing with the Mastery stat on your gear. The increase caps when you're within 8 yards of a target and starts decreasing the further you get away from them, down to a 0% increase at maximum range. This passive by itself almost dictates that the Holy Paladin is suited better to healing melee, as all party members in the melee group are relatively close together most of the time. Righteousness simply increases your maximum health by 15%, which doesn't sound that extravagant until you realize that Light of the Martyr damages you, making the increased health pool kinda insane. Now that we're through with the passives, let's move on to the cooldowns. These spells are much more powerful than the combat abilities that we covered in the first video for Holy. Learning when to use your cooldowns properly will easily set you apart from any other healers. Aura Mastery has a 3-minute cooldown, boosting the effect of the aura you choose in the 4th tier of your talents. Upon activating this ability, your aura will boost for 6 seconds, affecting all party or raid members within 40 yards. The 3 auras are Devotion Aura, Aura of Sacrifice, and Aura of Mercy, and we'll go over their effects in the next video. Avenging Wrath is an instant ability on a 2-minute cooldown that increases your healing done by 35% and your crit chance by 20% for 20 seconds. This effect is different from Retribution and Protection in that it doesn't boost your damage, which means this should not be used if there isn't heavy incoming damage to your raid. Blessing of Freedom is an instant ability that you can cast either on yourself or a raid member that grants the target immunity to movement impairing effects, with the exception of stuns, dazes, and loss of control effects, for 8 seconds. This spell has a 40-yard range and a 25-second cooldown. Blessing of Sacrifice is also instant cast, but has a 2.5-minute cooldown. You can only cast this on a party or raid member, and when activated it transfers 30% of their damage taken to you for 12 seconds, or until you fall below 20% health as a result of the spell. One example for a good use of this spell would be to place it on a tank that has run out of personal cooldowns when they're about to take a significant amount of damage. Divine Protection is your own personal self-defensive spell. Upon activation, it reduces all damage you take by 20% for 8 seconds and has a 1-minute cooldown. This should be used as much as possible in fights with lots of raid-wide damage, but can be saved for specific incoming damage when raid-wide damage isn't as much of a concern. Your last 3 cooldowns cause a debuff called Forbearance. These 3 spells, shown on screen here, incur the debuff for 30 seconds immediately when they are cast on the target. While a player is affected by Forbearance, it is impossible for anyone to cast another Forbearance-causing spell onto them. Blessing of Protection is the first of these. It has a 5-minute cooldown and can be cast on any member of your raid. When cast, Blessing of Protection blocks all physical attacks for 10 seconds. This is a good spell to use on tanks that need to soak a large physical attack, but will also cause them to drop all of their threat. This can also be useful if there's an enemy attacking you, as you can drop your threat to help a tank pick up whatever was attacking you. Divine Shield is also on a 5-minute cooldown, but can only be cast on yourself. Casting this spell will stop all damage from being dealt to you for 8 seconds. One interesting synergy with this cooldown is Light of the Martyr, since you can cast it while Divine Shield is up as much as you like without the drawback of taking damage. The only caveat to that is that Light of the Martyr will still not contribute to your Beacon of Light healing. Lay on Hands is the last of these Forbearance cooldowns. It has a whopping 10-minute cooldown and heals a friendly target for your entire maximum health pool. This cooldown is your absolute last resort spell for saving someone's life, as you will only get one use out of it per encounter. Let's recap. Stay close to your targets to get the maximum healing possible from your mastery. Be mindful about your Infusion of Light choices between Holy Light and Flash of Light, and don't be afraid to use a Light of the Martyr since you have your boosted health pool. Don't be shy to use your cooldowns, but be mindful of when you're using them and communicate with your healers to ensure that underhealing and or overhealing doesn't occur. Be aware of your Forbearance cooldowns and who has Forbearance on them. Lastly, make sure that you keep yourself alive. It's a known pitfall of healers to forget about their own health when healing others, but you can't heal if you're dead. Follow these rules and you'll gain sure footing towards the mastery of the Holy Pally. That's all I have for the intermediate guide to the Holy Paladin and Legion. Hopefully now you have a greater understanding of the toolkit. Subscribe to keep an eye out for the third part to the Holy series to talk about your talents, and of course if you have any questions, please ask away in the comments below or on Twitter at TheLoranzas. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, have fun.